Why do you say that, Father? You aren't afraid, are you?
No, but I respect some of the superstitions of others. Often they are founded in fact.
Broadcasting from our Sanctum Sanctorum in Venice, California, I'm Krista.
I'm Kristen.
And we are the Sixth Sense Society. And welcome again to another show of the Sixth Sense Society, tonight we're going to be talking about gift-giving ideas for the witch in your life. But first, we're going to do the cosmic weather for the week of December 16th. So tonight's moon is a waxing gibbous moon in the feisty sign of Aries. So please don't go pick fights like I do. And then we have really there are two main days that have a fair amount going on, and one is the winter solstice, which is going to be December 21st. So not only is it the solstice that day, but we have Venus trine Neptune. Mm-hmm. We have Mercury conjunct Jupiter in Sagittarius, which could be interesting, and that's at 9:37 a.m. And then the sun goes into the sign of Capricorn at 2:23 p.m. So that's going to be a cool day. And then on Saturday, we have the full moon, December 22nd, and it's in my sign. And not only that, it's going to be exactly conjunct my Venus and my sun, because it's 0 degrees Cancer 49 minutes at 9:49 a.m. So all of you Cancers that were born close to the cusp will really feel it, but anyone can, of course. But it's kind of cool when it's like right on your sun or moon or something like that. And then the other thing I wanted to sort of bring up is, Venus went retrograde quite a while ago on October 6th, and then it went direct, and now it is basically picking up where it left off. So on December 17th, it's now going into 10 degrees of Scorpio 18 minutes. So basically, the whole retrograde is finished in the sense that it's gone back and forth and covered the same ground.
It's coming down to now.
Exactly.
What have you learned? What's come up? What happened when the last time it was at 10 degrees of Scorpio?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you little breather there for the even though it's still in Scorpio now, it's kind of full force, full speed ahead. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty much it for the cosmic weather. Did you have anything you wanted to talk about astrologically?
I just was thinking that what an intense year it's been. It's been incredible astrologically. We had the eclipses in February. Then we had 3 eclipses in July and August. We had retrograde Rho this year. And it's interesting because, when people ask me about this year, as often happens at the end of the year, people, well, how was your year and what's going on? And it wasn't a bad year, but I think it was very intense. And I think this was a very pivotal year for a lot of people. From what I've been talking with a lot of friends, with people that I read cards for, and the general sense of things is that there was a lot of shakeups, a lot of reviewing, a lot of things going on. And I think the solstice is a great time to not just set intentions, but to also kind of look back on what were your transformations this year? What maybe are you not looking at that was transformed? Maybe there was something that you weren't quite ready to look at back when certain planets were in retrograde, and now that things are kind of a little bit more quiet, there may be some space within this solstice time to kind of review the year and look at the accomplishments, look at what changed, look at what was uncomfortable, but maybe is better for going through the discomfort. Where were your successes? And where do you want to go now that this is sort of like, I think a lot of people were just trying to breathe a lot, sort of like, that sense of like, here's the water, and we're just kind of like, sometimes it was a little like, oh my God, can I breathe a little bit? And now is a good time to kind of, because we have a great year coming up. New year, new start. So
and yes, actually the week before the darkest night of the year is more of the dark moon time, which I always find it ironic. They have all these parties. It's kind of counterintuitive, at least for us in the northern hemisphere, because it's getting darker. You want to stay in and stay cozy and maybe have maybe someone over, and,
right.
and it's much it's natural if you work with the harmonies of nature to kind of go in and sort of
Yeah.
heal a little and just let it all sink in, like Kristen was saying.
It's a perfect time to go within and kind
Yeah.
of look at those spots that maybe weren't so comfortable, but in a perspective where you're now comfortable.
Yes. Yeah, you're integrating it a little
Yes,
bit more.
exactly.
I did want to get back to something I said earlier with the Aries moon. I learned I'd like to maybe share a little bit of how I've learned to read my chart, because I really want to encourage you all to look at your own charts, and it's really fun, not so hard. And then when you go to an astrologer, you can really ask some great questions. So when I was learning, Vicki Noble, in one of her books, I forget which one it was, I really read a lot of her when I was in my 30s. And she said you can watch the moon go through your chart because it's really fast moving.
Right.
So I did that. And every time it was an Aries, because I'm a Cancer and my husband's a Capricorn, I would pretty much every time, try to pick a fight with him because Aries squares me.
Interesting.
And I realized how I sort of now know that. So it was just an unconscious use of the energy. So now I just notice the tension and see what needs to kind of shift. It might have nothing to do with Michael.
Absolutely.
But it was really amazing how accurate it was. And I said, wow. And you can also do that with dreams, where you can look at what kind of dreams you have during certain moons, which are it's really fun too. By the way, there's a lot of astrology sometimes in your dreams if you know the symbolism of, say, Leo, and you have dreams with the sun or the color orange or yellow. And I was, the more I've studied both dreams and astrology, I can see I'm actually having a dream about the cosmos. And it's really interesting. So astrology can be applied in so many cool ways the more you study it and know it. And so I encourage you, if you haven't looked at how the moon affects you, just to observe. It moves, it goes into new sign every 2.5 to 3 days, so it doesn't take long. And it's really interesting, and see what kind of energies you feel when certain moons are going through certain houses. And
makes me want to do that. Just like track it. Just for 1 month, for a couple of months actually, just kind of as a cool experiment.
Yeah.
And it's a perfect time. Again, it's January. It's a great time to kind of maybe spend the winter kind of like tracking it a little bit. That way, by the time we get to the spring and we want to feel renewed, and we're kind of like finally letting everything go, and we're kind of rebirthing. With the spring, we kind of have this information, this knowledge. Because knowledge, I mean, the cliche, knowledge is power. But it's true. The more we know about ourselves, it's so interesting because, you say, oh, I was picking a fight with my husband. But now you're like, oh, well, how can I productively use that energy now? Or just simply know, okay, this is around the time I always pick a fight. Is this a valid thing?
Right.
Because sometimes it might be a valid thing. Then you need to kind of discuss something. But
Right.
sometimes it's sort of like, okay, but you know what? This is something that's really irritating me, but I'm not going to go about it in a pick the fight kind of way. I'm just going to
Right.
address it a little bit differently because I
Yeah.
know that this energy it's just energy
Right.
coming at me.
Exactly. And so for me, the squares, where anything squares like your sun, that is sometimes where you don't see things coming. I always tell people it's like running around a corner and you don't know what's around the corner. That's to me what a square is. Whereas if it's an opposition, you can still work with it because you see it, and an opposition is really just reconcilable, is what the Hermetics would say. So the squares for me personally are the hardest in the chart. Of course, they're some of the greatest growth that you'll have, though. So
Right.
that's why Aries is particularly interesting for me. So anyway, well, let's move on to our topic tonight. And as I said, it's going to be about the giving gifts to people you know that are witches in your life, and what do you get them, and do they even celebrate Christmas or something like that?
And I'd like to point out that all of us are witches, regardless of whether we call ourselves witches or not. Like, some people really are traditional witches, and that's sort of their structured sort of way of life or philosophy or religion. But as we talk a lot on this channel, we all have a little witch inside of us.
Oh,
So,
yes. That's what
so-
Laurie Cabot writes about in
Yes.
that book, a great book, The Witch in Every Woman.
Yes.
There are some women that would be extremely shocked to know that.
Yes. So these gifts go across the board to everyone. And I do just want to make sure that you all know that anything that we talk about tonight, we are not affiliated with. We are not getting paid a dime to promote or talk about any of these things. These are just things that we really enjoy, that we thought that might spark a little bit of interest. I know that when it comes to gift giving, sometimes you can kind of get a little lost, like, oh my God, I forgot to get a gift for this person or that person, and these are just suggestions to help kind of like inspire you.
Yes. Why don't you start? You have a lot of good ideas tonight.
Oh, fantastic. Do we have an article?
I don't think we have
We
one
don't
tonight.
have an
Michael,
article.
I don't think we do.
We don't.
So let's
well,
jump right in.
Well,
Thank you,
fabulous.
though.
Yeah. Awesome. Should we start with a book or an item?
Let's start with an item.
With an item.
Yes.
Okay. And so I'm gonna peek in and out sometimes. I got some stuff to the side. This is what I want to start with. Okay. So because this is something that we can all get. If you have a Whole Foods near you, you can get Kate's Magic. And Kate's Magic, I'm going to hold it up for you. These fantastic oils. And I was reading about her story, and she, as a young girl, had stress and anxiety and depression and really struggled emotionally. And her mom started using essential oils to sort of relieve the anxiety and the depression. And she really found them to be very useful. And so as she grew up, it became her way of making a living. So Kate's Magic, and that's magic with a MIKATEMAGIK. So it's magic, Kate's Magic. And what I love about these oils is you can use them for everything. You can use them as a perfume. You can use them with magic. So, for example, if you have your candle, like you're doing your full moon intention, I like to dip the oils into my candle and sort of swish them around and combine them on what I want to make happen. So this is the Sweet Marriage one, and it's sort of to either help your marriage or to help you attract a marriage partner. This one is Sensual Lust and Healing. She has a fantastic Kate's Magic. It's called Letting Go. And it is just really brilliant if you've had a breakup or there's something going on with you emotionally that you want to let go of. I had a breakup, and so someone had recommended it to me for that. But anything you really want to let go of, it's actually quite a powerful essential oil. And I found myself rubbing it on my chest, sort of on the back of my neck and on my third eye are great places to use it. But also, again, if you're using your intention candles, you can, as you're putting them in the candles with your maybe herbs as well, you could be intentioning, for my greatest good, could I let go? Help me to...
You can also put them in baths as long as they're not irritating, so I use like lavender in a bath. It's really nice. And
absolutely. But I particularly love her oils because there's a lot of intention. I believe she's a Reiki master as well. So she does Reiki on them. She does her own spell work and intention work on them. And they're just really, really beautiful, beautiful oils. Another oil that I thought was really, really great for this particular topic was the Orchiaca oil. This is the medieval mix, and it's rosemary and thyme. And I just feel like rosemary and thyme are just herbs that we witches, kitchen witches, Wiccans love to use. And I like that it was in an oil form because, again, you can put it on your body. It's this sort of like, something came to me the other week that I am a living spell. And that we are our own spells. And so as we're casting or we're doing intentions with candles or herbs or baths or using words, using the tarot for making spell, that we kind of are living with it and we're walking with it as well. And so the thing I like about oils and baths is that we can kind of immerse ourselves in the sense, in the herb. And so it's a really great way to kind of walk into life as your spell. Because a lot of times we cast and then sometimes we sit around waiting. Is it going to happen? And it's really kind of a practice to be able to let go of any kind of spell that we cast, knowing that it'll come back to us. But I love the idea of being able to carry an essential oil in your purse, and sometimes just even without being conscious of it, just kind of like, I am beautiful, I am magic, I am inspiration, I'm attracting the right partner to me, smell it, kind of like work with it, but in a way that's very productive and meaningful and sensual and visceral, as opposed to like, oh my God, I lit this candle. When's it going to happen? So Kate's Magic, and it's katesmagic.com. Check her out.
And also, smell is one of the most powerful ways to remember things. And that's why you'll be walking somewhere and you'll get a whiff of an odor, and suddenly this really clear memory will come back to you. I think it's one of the best ways to recall memory.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of neat about smell too. And then some people have that, I forget how you pronounce it, like there's a clear, it's clear something where you can,
Yes.
you smell, like, for instance, if someone has died, you smell their perfume, and you smell, and
Right.
so it's like
Childhood
a psychic ability, but I
smells.
always forget what it's called, one of the clairs, call it.
There are so many
There's
Claires.
so many clairs. And if you're not sure, like I was going to mention too, I think essential oils are great to give. And there are some staples I think a lot of people use. So even if they have it, if they run out, they'll want to have it. So for me, I would say things like lavender,
Right.
tea tree is very popular because
Yeah.
it's got. I know someone that uses it in between readings to keep things hygienic. So
Yes, yes.
you don't want to
no,
catch the
it's-
colds of people, so you use a little
Yes.
tea tree, or I suppose, and peppermint's nice for just uplifting. But I know a lot of people use a lot of lavender. So-
Lavender is totally what I like about
on rose is popular.
Yes, very, very
Rose,
popular.
yeah.
And what I like about hers, the Kate's Magic, is that she's got these great blends. So sensual, lust, and passion is, and I always pronounce this wrong, yang yang? Lang yang?
You got me. I've never heard it pronounced, to tell you the
I
truth.
know, isn't it
I don't know
awful?
if it's
Here we
lang
are on
lang
YouTube
or
mispronouncing.
Yeah.
Yang Lang and Rose.
Yes.
And so, and I know that the Sweet Marriage is orange and jasmine, and she has a lot of, sensual lust and heal. Sensual lust and heal. Because we need healing from our lust. You know what I mean?
We need more lust.
Rose and lavender. Now, this rose and lavender together in this healing of the
Ah.
heart, this is an amazing blend because they're both very calming, very, unconditional love to ourselves. And it's, so these, and you can make your own blends. That's what I love about them too, especially I have this sort of candle here, but I love just, mixing the blends of the lavender and the tea tree oil and the orange and the thyme. And you can kind of make your own, like it was rose is good for love and jasmine is good for sensuality, but peppermint is uplifting. So you can kind of just make your own magic blends and put them in your candles or your herbs and your baths and just kind of, create your own thing, which I'm all about, creating your own thing.
I have a fun story about Rose. I got to interview Z Budapest for an article for the Beachhead about 3 years ago, and because of her, we're able to actually do fortune telling. It was against the law,
Oh,
and
wow.
she spent a lot of
Cool.
time and was even arrested. We
Huh.
owe her so much, and she's just a cool lady. I totally recommend all her books, and she's Hungarian, so I like that. But when I was talking, she said that Susan B. Anthony would use rose, and she doesn't know if she did it deliberately, but she said rose is also, you wear it when you want people to respect you. So I thought that was kind of cool. I'd never heard that about rose.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That's awesome because when we think of rose, we think of love and self-love, but respect and love go together, right?
Yeah.
You have to have respect for someone. I mean, you can love someone, but if you don't respect them or yourself, it's hard to, I don't know, for the union to really be very fruitful. So that's cool.
I thought that was really interesting. So before we go on to some other gift ideas, I did want to mention there is a tradition in Italy
Oh.
with the Christmas witch, and I discovered it. If you live in Santa Monica, Venice, on Main Street, there, I forget the name of the coffee shop, but it's kind of near a little laundromat, and every year they put up this huge statue of La Befana, and she's called the Christmas Witch. And the legend is that on January 5th, she goes out at night to visit children. If you're bad, she leaves charcoal or coal in the shoes and presents and candies if you're good. So usually there's a mix because most kids are good and bad. And so on the morning of Epiphany, that's where they wake up on January 6th. And she's a really cool figure. There's different legends about how she started. She was one I read was that she was originally a housewife, and the three magi stopped at her home, and she was very kind to them. But then when they said, "You want to come with us?" she didn't initially go with the magi, and then
Ah.
she regretted it. And then she started looking for the baby Jesus, and left, candy everywhere to every baby.
Aw.
So that's one of the legends, though it's kind of an odd thing because I wonder why she looks like a witch. So, and they say, oh, they added the hat, but she's always had a broomstick.
Right.
So I don't know about if they kind of Christianize her because she goes way back before Kris Kringle.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
like the 8th century, some say, and
Wow, cool.
so it's a
So
really
Kris Kringle could be potentially based on her. A woman, my gosh. How...
he has his own story too. I
Yes,
know that.
yes.
Brad Cronin has a couple good articles about him if you go to his website.
Definitely go on Amazon and put in search Brad Cronin, Kronen. Brad Cronin. He has a great book that just came out based on Sagittarius in Jupiter and Christmas and the whole. It's really, really interesting and cool.
Yeah, he's written over the years, if you go to his website, about Christmas and the legends. And
Yeah.
he's a fun writer. He always has a lot of good historical things mixed in with humor and wit and his knowledge. A really nice combination. So we're definitely fans of his, as you can see.
And he just wrote 12 books for each zodiac about your matches in love. And so you can, if you're a Taurus, you can get the Taurus book and read all about you and Aries and Sagittarius and Scorpio and everything. And we're just going to shout out to our great friend Brad.
Yes. So, Michael, what is your view about the gift giving in the holiday season?
Well, it's really kind of interesting. I was actually doing a little research, and gift giving is a big part of things going way, way back. So in a lot of the old Yule traditions, again, there was some sort of gift exchange. So it does seem to be sort of a historically and culturally important thing. I guess my personal belief, though, it's like everything else, that we've taken something pure and good and we've made it obnoxious, which seems to be the American way. So now if you don't give somebody a car, it's not good enough, type of thing. And I kind of, think back in the day they had it right. Often it was small little handmade trinkets or someone would knit something for someone, but they're kind of personalized little gifts as opposed to massive, expensive, running into debt with your Visa card kind of commercial Christmas gifts. And I know that a few years ago, our friends got together and back in Nova Scotia, and we decided that it was crazy. We were just losing our minds, and we were running around all these stores, and we were running up our credit cards and getting all stressed out. So we decided just to stop it, and we got away from the gift giving. I think we each got one present that we exchanged to the other, whoever on our list. But we more or less kind of moved away from it a little bit, and we came back to celebrating the holiday by having a really nice meal and having everyone gather together. And I got to admit, it was probably one of the best decisions we ever made. It got rid of so much of the stress, and I think it's a shame that we've kind of commercialized everything to the point, all of the holidays to the point. You have Memorial Day, which is supposed to be celebrating the sacrifices people made in war. Instead, it becomes Memorial Day sales and beer at the lake, and so we seem to have moved a long way from the spiritual aspect of most of our holidays, I think. And I think the gift giving is awesome, and I think it's important, and I love it when it's something that's personal, that you kind of create and give yourself to that person, something that means something. As Krista was saying earlier, maybe you write a poem for them or something and tie it up with a nice little bow or something of that nature on a nice piece of parchment or something of that nature. But I think that, again, there's a fine line between something that's really thoughtful. And the other thing I guess I was thinking about it is that, I have sympathy for people that don't have a lot of money, and what must their kids feel like when the kid next door gets all these presents and gifts and bicycles and everything else, and his family can't afford to do that for them. And to a 5 or 6 year old, how does that feel? So to me, again, it's a mixed blessing, and I love the idea of the gift giving, but I think that we should try and keep it maybe a little more simple, a little more down to earth. And so that's my view anyway. So I don't know how you guys feel about that, but
Well, I have solutions for that. Actually, I have a bunch of, I thought ahead, and I know a lot of people don't have a lot of money. As a matter of fact, I have a girlfriend who's one of like 6 kids, and she used to talk about when she was struggling that they just couldn't quite give up the tradition of everybody exchanging gifts because the dad had died and they would all do it when they were kids, and it was a way of remembering family with him, and it would stress her out. And she ended up doing small little things like this. She actually was very good at beading, and so she would go to the bead shop and get these beautiful beads for very little money and make bracelets and things.
Oh.
But so things like that you can do. I mean, again, like bead shops.
Mm-hmm.
But crystals are so, the smaller. I mean, obviously there's huge crystals that cost a lot of money. But crystals in general are very cheap. And you can get, these crystals like this. You can get them on the web. Many natural food stores or the spiritual shops.
Mm-hmm.
Usually there's like, even in small towns, I've noticed that there's this person that has like a spiritual shop or like an esoteric bookstore, and you can get like Palo Santo, a bundle of sage, and you can make little amulet bags,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is fantastic. And I put a little Kate's Magic thing. I think these oils, they're not the cheapest. I think this one's like $20. So I mean, that's not cheap. But in general, if you had a $20 limit, you could get a little Kate's Magic and a little bag. Or if you had a $25 limit, a beautiful oil, a stick of Palo Santo, a $1 or $2 for a crystal. And a lot of times these bags come for free. I know that at the several bookshops that I go to, they'll actually give you, if you buy crystal, they'll give you the bag.
Yeah.
And it's a great, cheap option to do. And you can make magic with all of those things. And you don't need to be expensive. That's not what we're about. And as you were saying, a little bit of oil and some Palo Santo and a crystal, and you can make a world of magic.
I sometimes steal from my own ingredients too to make a little charm bag, and I've like collected pelican feathers over the years, and
Right.
and you can sometimes do something symbolically for someone. Like we have a beautiful little dove, and she molts. So if I know someone is suffering in love, I will give them a feather from her, which is free, and no doves were harmed. And they like it, I can tell.
Yeah.
So I think that I began this journey around the gift giving in my 20s. I used to do a lot of cards, and I would max out my credit card too much. And then I just for a while quit everything because I was beat, like Michael said. So I've come around now where I like to give a few thoughtful things to people more spontaneously. Like I don't even have a list of people. Some years I've given a couple cards. Like this year I have like 3 cards I'm sending out mail wise
Right.
because I felt the need to. I feel like I need to connect with this person. And by the way, people love cards, and they love it if you write something in it from your heart. And the reason I know, I've been doing it for years, and all I do is try to pick a card I think, which by the way you can get them at 99-cent stores sometimes, that suits them. I'll just intuitively go. So I've gotten really good at picking the right cards.
Right.
And one time, one of the most touching things happened. I'd actually written a card for someone that lost their mother, and I just wrote what I felt, and he carried the card in his pocket. It meant so much, and all
Yeah.
I did was just speak from my heart. There was no
Right.
fancy anything, and I
Right.
got a card I thought would suit him.
Right.
That's when I realized how powerful words and cards are. You could make a card, and please, you don't have to be an artist. I think people are very touched when you stop and even make a little smiley face. I keep all the little notes and things people will write me at work. They'll write me a little drawing.
Yeah.
They give it to me. That's a very soulful way. And even sitting down and maybe sharing with one of your really good friends what they mean to you, like really sitting down.
Take someone for a cup of tea or a coffee
Yeah.
or one drink or an inexpensive lunch. I've done that.
Yeah.
And have a conversation with them, give them a hug, wish them a happy new year that way.
Yeah, those are, and especially because I think we're way more busy than we realize, and I think some of us want to do more of that, and we just don't for some reason. And when we do, we feel so good. We just sit down and have that really good conversation, and no phones, and you're not constantly looking at it. And so I've come back to having like simple celebration, because I think getting little presents can really perk your day up. You could buy someone a
Yes.
cookie and they'll go on
Yes.
about it for
That's what I was. There's like you can, and like some other inexpensive options that I have here. So I love these. There's like a whole collection of tarot in a tin. I love these so much, and they're tiny. Everybody loves them. This is how small they are. They're like this. So I have a small hand. So it's tarot in a tin. On Amazon, they're $9.99, and they have a huge collection of them. This is the Smith Waite Tarot Centennial Edition, but they have Morgan Greer in a tin. They have, I mean, they've got like at least about a dozen different types of tarot in a tin. And everyone that sees it, like I said, they all think that they're cute. Again, it's an Amazon thing for $9.99. Can't go wrong. I got these for $9.99. Pardon me. I think I'm out of the camera, so pardon me. These were like, I don't know, like
Those are pretty.
$10 as well.
Yeah.
I mean, some of you that are into the tarot and all that might know the Klimt deck by, how do I put it? Lo Scarabeo?
Yeah, I
Lo
think that.
Scarabeo. That beautiful Italian
Yeah,
company
they have
that
wonderful
they
decks.
do wonderful
Yeah.
decks. They did a mini Klimt. Oh my God, this is so and it's so cheap. And it's even if someone isn't into tarot, they will get a kick. Even I have a friend who wasn't into tarot, but she loved Klimt. She loved these, and they're just look at how small they are. Look at how small they are and cute.
Oh, you can get even smaller. I was going to suggest the mini decks are
Yes.
so cute to buy.
There's
people.
a deck that's like
Yeah.
half this size. So it's like there's like a regular Rider Waite that's
Right.
like this size. It is so cute. People just get, and you can carry it, especially for the witch who just is on the go. Like sometimes I carry cards with me because it's fun to just if sometimes you find yourself out, you keep one in the car, you're with friends, you say you read cards. It's just fun to have.
Yes.
But these are just
Those are beautiful.
really, really, really pretty.
Yeah.
They're with the gold, and like I said, so inexpensive and so pretty. Like I said, even people that are just sort of into it but not like serious readers will like them because of just how pretty they are, and they're not traditional tarot. So in a way, they lend themselves to being very much an oracle in that way, as well as a traditional tarot. So your traditional tarot people can look at them and read them like traditional tarot, or like I said, because they're a little bit different, they're inspired. You can look at them as an oracle card as well. So,
And I was thinking of bringing in some of my boxes. So you never have enough tarot boxes as a collector. And you can use so many things for boxes. Like I like empty cigar boxes. If you get really cool ones, you can get them at cigar shops. And I go through and they're great because you can put a couple of weird sized decks in it. There's a lot. I use sometimes those sort of they're like sandwich holding, those tins that you put the sandwiches in with different like superheroes on it or things like that. Regular tarot boxes. Etsy has really great handmade boxes. In fact, Laser made a beautiful deck for me for my Crowley deck, and she's really reasonable and so much fun to work with. She does all kinds of boxes with cedar, and all sizes, and so she had the same cross on that she did a laser on top of the lid that is on the back of Crowley's deck. It was beautiful. I was going to bring it in, and then I just got a little lazy. But that Etsy, if you want to go, one of the things I like to do is support in general artisans, and especially around Christmas, they talk about going into merchants, but I personally also like to go directly to the artists. And so Etsy has tons of people that have such cool things, and that you can find almost anything kind of witch related. And again, they're usually pretty inexpensive, like as far as, because there's no middleman too. So you're supporting them. That's another reason I like gifts is I personally like to, if I was really rich, I like to support artists that I believe in. So I always go back and buy more from them and give them to my friends or turn my friends on. I just want them to be successful too. So in a way, you can look at it, gift giving as a symbiotic tradition as well, where you're helping the artist.
You're actually helping support the artist. I just ordered some candles from Luna M Sensual, and there's also another site called My Little Wick. And they're just hand-poured candles in a tin. And they're anything from like $9.99 to like $12.99. And the girls really do pour everything, hand-poured soy wax, herbs. Luna M was very, like, she made the candles on the full moon, and Venus it was the full moon. And it just, everything was just so, and it was so personal. So like Etsy in general is always a great place to go to get something more personalized to deal with the artist and to, because I mean, our society, money is part of our society, but we can look at it in a positive way. We don't have, I mean, you can look at it in with anything. It's, you can you can do negative things with money, you can do evil things with money, but it's what you do with the money. And if you're supporting local, like I go to the local health food store, which is a mom and pop place, more often than like a Whole Foods, because you want to support people that are genuine, that you really want to give your money to, and that, I mean, that's the most important part of it.
And also, there are other inexpensive things. Like one thing I think a lot of people run out that practice magic in general is incense. And you can, if you, obviously if it's your friend, you might know their favorite brands and their favorite incense, but there are some that I think people use a lot of. And there's two I think that are very popular at Mystic Journey where I work, is the Dragon's Blood and the Copal.
Yes, I
They're
have the Copal
both
right
really
here.
very popular, and so you almost can't go wrong with that.
Copal is fantastic. It's so powerful. In case you don't know.
And
like.
it really, there's a lot of smoke in that one. And it's really beautiful, actually.
It's really, really fantastic.
Yeah.
If you go to houseofintuition.com, their candles rock. And, I just used my last one and I didn't realize, so I feel embarrassed that I don't have one here for you. But houseofintuition.com, they have a candle for everything. And it's very consciously done. The owner consciously does them all. And I was told that when she gets the boxes in, she puts them near her altar and she actually blesses things. So it's just very, houseofintuition.com. Go check it out. And they're reasonable. Like you can get a big candle like this for like $14.99, and they have crystals in them. So when you're done burning them down, there's like 2 or 3 crystals in them as well. So they're a fantastic gift because you've got something. So whatever your intention was, or whatever you were trying to bring in or let go of, or you've got that with you. So if you did want to continue to carry around with it or use it in additional spells, you've got the crystals that are infused with all of that as well. So.
And another thing you can do to give back, there are a couple of things in our area that are really everywhere. One is you can buy gifts for children in need and leave them at different spots. They used to have it at Abbott's Habit, and unfortunately that closed. But they're definitely, I think Vera Davis might still do that. And they have some really good presents that they try to find, or they do find, to give to children that would have nothing. You can also volunteer a lot of times at homeless shelters where they feed the homeless. And really, if you want to have a spirit of giving in that way, because I think it's very unique, you might not want to do that. But if you feel that you really want to embrace that giving spirit, there's so many wonderful and fun things to do. Mm-hmm. And then also going back to the idea that you don't have to spend any money. You can give people your time. So you can, let's say you have a friend that has a child and you say, look, I'll take care of your child for a couple hours someday, or maybe you have an ability and you want to share it freely with a couple friends. So for me, I could say, hey, I'll give you a reading, this year, whenever you want, right. Sort of like your birthday reading. And so really, and I do think it's important to think about your giving in a realistic way. Like you can't, that's why we get stressed out. Sometimes we overgive, and,
right.
and really just think about people you want to and feel need to have your gifts, because that can change, every year. It can be different. It doesn't have to be the same people or the same kind of giving, and you can take a break from it. And I do like to keep it simple because I've often worked in retail in the holiday period. And once you work on the other side of it, you just get tired. And so if you're around people a lot, sometimes you want to have a simple celebration and have a really wonderful meal with your family and friends, or just yourself and your immediate family. So I think it's really a broad spectrum. And now and then it's really good to pamper people if you have the means. Why not?
Absolutely.
It's wonderful to do that.
It's about, I think, giving. I remember my aunt said this to me, my Aunt Chris, that it's about giving someone something that they would really want or use or desire, or that's meaningful to them. And she would always talk about my Uncle Peter's business partner's wife, who would just give her a Christmas plate every year Like it was and it was like, and it wasn't that she was ingracious but she was like, so and so just doesn't think at all what I could possibly want or like. You don't have to spend a lot of money. It could be $10. Now, of course, it was because sometimes there is a certain amount of well, I have to kind of do this because yes, my husband's boss needs this, or I mean, it's become part of our society to the point where we do feel this pressure. But it's not about, well, I'll just give anything. It's about being conscious. So if you're just conscious with it, as a matter of fact, you could spend $100 on something that a person doesn't even want or use. You're like, well, it's so-and-so, so I've got to give them this expensive thing. But really the $20 gift is actually something that they would want. So I think it's more about who are you giving the gift to? Who are they? What do you think instinctively they would like? What do they need? What do they talk about? And I think that that's very appreciative. So whether it's expensive or not expensive, it's about what does that person, what are they? It's like you consciously sat down for a few minutes and actually thought so-and-so would use this or so-and-so would like this, as opposed to, well, I gotta go get. I mean, not that there's anything wrong with Christmas plates, but she's got like 20 Christmas plates. It's just like she like went to like Ross and just bought a random Christmas plate. You know what I mean? Not that there's anything wrong with Ross. I love Ross or Christmas plates, but it was like every single year it was just sort of, and it got after like 2 or 3 years. By the time it was like 4 and 5, it's like she's obviously not thinking about anything that I would really use or want. Whereas my aunt would actually think, what does so-and-so really want? What is she wasn't spending a lot of money, but she was just thinking, what would so-and-so like?
And don't be afraid to ask people. My latest thing, if I'm going to spend more than $20 on anyone and I really don't have a clue what they really want, or say like, this happened to me one time recently. I knew the person had a lot of books, but I knew that they loved books. So I asked them outright, what kind of books were they looking for right now, with titles and everything?
Right.
Because I said, what would you like? And I think people think that's unromantic, but not everybody likes surprises. And I think it's really lovely to get exactly what you want as an adult, too.
I know a lot of women. I know several women that actually have told me, oh, I tell my husband what to get me. And they're just really like, yeah, no, you're going to get, I mean, and not that I think that this is cool, but it's like, oh, yeah, you're going to get me this thing of my choosing. I mean, it was a little bit, that was a little intense. But nothing wrong with asking.
No, and I think it can go both ways. I just feel if it's going to be a fairly expensive gift, and anything over $20 to me starts moving into that.
Right.
That I want them to be happy, even though people can return things and or you could ask for a range of things if you wanted to add a little surprise and because it is it's really awkward to give someone something, I find it, that you can tell that they just don't really connect to on some level.
And especially if it's a person that's more like a friend or an acquaintance. And, look, I know that a lot of people are like, but I'm married to you, you should know what I like. And I do agree with that. And that's when it's sort of like, unless you're constantly giving a gift to someone and every year they're like, you know what I mean? You're like, okay, honey, what do you want? Well, you should know. Well, everything I try, you know what I mean? It can get stressful, but the point is to enjoy it.
Yes.
And to not be afraid to kind of speak up, and you could look kind of like, around that time. Well, what are they asking about? What are they hinting about? I think it's about being conscious about a person. So.
And true, it's nice, and I think receiving gifts is another kind of art form. It's nice, and you were thought about, but it can get a little ridiculous. I remember my grandmother when I was a teenager. I don't know why she would buy me some of the clothes she would buy me. One time she bought me this like really long, like dress that had, I believe it was like elephants on it, and I didn't know if it was a nightgown or, and I was like 16, and I remember like, oh, thanks, Grandma. And then when she really got to know me better as a person, she used to really buy me thoughtful clothing, even if it was something I wouldn't normally buy. I liked it because she knew. But, it's just kind of awkward when especially if you open a present and you're like, oh, okay.
Well, and it happens all the time where you kind of open something and it is the thought that even people that know me really well have gotten me some things that I'm like, all right, I would never use this, but it is about, the fact that you were thought of. I think last year, a girlfriend of mine wrote me this beautiful letter and got me a beautiful notepad and a soap And I just was so touched. And the note she wrote was so beautiful. And so, it's not about the money, really. It's about
No.
the thought. I mean, the thought that counts. It's a cliche, but it's a cliche because it's absolutely true. So, like I said, you can get someone a $100 gift that's so unconscious. It's sort of like if you were watching the TV show Frankie and Grace with Lily Tomlin and Jane Fonda.
love
I
that
just
show.
love them.
I know.
So,
They're
I mean,
great.
and in one of the episodes, I think it was in the second season, he like pre-bought her a whole bunch of like really fantastic jewelry,
Oh,
like
yeah.
beautiful jewelry. I mean, in this jewelry shop, her favorite jewelry shop, the exact kind of jewelry she'd want. But he kind of just bought it in bulk and like wrote all these notes ahead of time, like kind of, intuiting like what kind of a Christmas gift, a birthday gift, a apology gift. And she found them, and it wasn't I mean, the jewelry was, she was like, but this isn't conscious. This is just sort of like you're just doing it to like, I think she called them like toys for a dog or something. But that's how we feel sometimes, and it's with it. And so it can be expensive. So, I mean, and I do appreciate having it be brought up that we don't all have a lot of money, and it's not about the money. But as you said, it's nice if you have the means to pamper. Like if you know that your girlfriend's been always wanted a pair of diamond earrings, and you can afford a very tiny little diamond, because I know for me it gives me so much pleasure to get something that someone really wants, even if it's a little tiny bit more money than I normally would afford or something. But I'm like, oh, I just know that they would really like that.
There's a wonderful pleasure in getting gifts for people. I totally enjoy it.
It's very
thinking
powerful,
about it
actually,
and like,
knowing that you're
they're
getting
gonna
them what they
really
like.
this,
Yeah.
and there is something to the idea of, and actually the actuality of getting presents for people. And so I agree with you. And I, even like, again, it doesn't have to be, something really expensive, but the thoughtfulness of it. Another thing I wanted to mention too that I would say a lot of magical people would enjoy are journals. And
Yes.
they can get pricey, but I
Yeah.
have found some very good ones at Ross for like $2.99.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
I know that a lot of them people use it for regular journaling, for putting their magic in it, like, kind of a pre-Book of Shadows thing,
Yeah.
notes about it. I know from doing a lot of readings, a lot of my clients, even though you can tape things, they still like to write in their journals as well. I have several clients that keep all their notes. Maybe it's from going to school, or they like the visceral feeling. So I think any kind of little ones, you can get some really, of course, beautiful ones. I've seen ones specifically for spells or something witchy, but honestly, there's so many variations now. And I'm sure if people, if they're nature lovers, but I think that's something you can't go wrong with mostly.
Yeah.
Most of the time you're going to find people use it for something, even if it's just for, their lists that they like to make. At least in the spiritual world, journals are a big deal.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. I was thinking about journals myself.
Yeah.
So yeah.
They get used a lot.
Well, very cool. Wonderful.
So here's maybe something we can think about right now. Some of our favorite little magical shops around the LA area where people, if they're not really, they have a friend who might be magically inclined and they're not quite sure where to find things. So of course we have the Mystic Journey where we all hang out here on Abbot Kinney in Venice. But there's another little shop we stumbled across called the Mystic's Altar. I don't know if you guys know that one, over on Westwood Boulevard and Santa Monica Boulevard, just off there. Fabulous little shop and a great selection of everything from dragon's blood to all kinds of herbs and things, and just a wonderful little shop.
She has a great collection of herbs. Like she has them in
Great.
these big glass canisters in the back. And then she also has a witch bar where she'll make things up for you.
Very cool.
It's a very magical, because she is a witch, and it's a very, very magical shop to walk into even. And I bought a little deck called the Witchlings, which I should bring
Ooh.
sometime. It's really cute that I got there recently. But yeah, that's a great shop too. What are some of the other ones? I'm trying to think.
We have, Pan Pipes down on
Yes.
Kuhanga, just off Hollywood Boulevard, and it's, apparently the oldest occult store in North America, and it's an interesting history. The George that owned it was kind of a character, and I don't necessarily mean that in the most positive of ways. He was a character. But he ended up selling the store to I can't remember the actress's name, but she played kind of the evil one in the movie The
Farouche
Craft.
Balk.
Yeah. And so I don't know if she
Delusion
still owns it or she did. There's another lady that works there now who is quite nice. And it's a very tiny little place, but it has an interesting atmosphere. So that's another one. I think there's still a couple of psychic eyes around, one in Sherman Oaks or something. Shaman's Drum, I think, is still out in Malibu. So that's another one if you're out that way that you can check into. And maybe you guys know of a few more that you can think of off the top of your heads.
Crystallarium, but I forget where that is. And the Aura Shop moved down.
It's on Main Street, very close to the House of Intuition, which is on Main Street. There's one in Hollywood, one in the Los Feliz area, and I believe they're opening up another one, and I'm not quite sure where. I think by Pasadena or something like that.
And of course, Thunderbolt Books down on Santa Monica Boulevard in downtown Santa Monica, which as of the moment has the largest collection of tarot decks for sale in North America. They carry just about every tarot deck made, and so it's worth dropping in. And nice people there too, but it's really worth dropping in just to see the wider range of tarot decks that they have for sale. So that's also a very cool one.
That is, yeah. They have also really affordable statues from really, like, I've got a really nice Tara statue for myself that was really affordable to more expensive ones, but they have it for different traditions. And if you do know a person's affiliation, like a little statue can be really like a Ganesha or, and like I said, a lot of them are very reasonable at Thunderbolts. I remember their statues.
Oh,
so
wonderful.
you get the little ones or big ones. So, well, I think it's, I think you have a lot to think about with the gifts. And anything else I'd like to add about, well, one of the things I did once, which was kind of fun, I made a spell up for somebody. And I don't know if it worked.
I was just going to say, if you can do that, if that's what you do, or you could do a ritual with someone. You could say, as a gift, let's do a candle magic together. What do you want to bring romance into your life? You want to bring money? Let's set up a time and pick the right date astrologically or, whatever it is, and sit with someone and actually do a ritual with them.
You can. And then what I did was I wrote a spell. And because it's just rhymes, anyone can write a spell.
Right.
If you watch Charmed, the old Charmed, by the way, which I really love. So there's a lot of little simple spells that you can make up. And I don't know if it helped her, but it was years ago and it was really fun to think of it. I wrote a little spell. And speaking of astrology, ephemerises can be really good. Like getting someone, I don't know if people buy them as much as you think, because it does matter carrying one around. I have looked more at astrology, having one right there. And then I tend to, what's nice about them is they all have the basic astrology in the beginning about what the signs mean, what the planets are.
Right.
Usually something a little more hefty. If you read those things cover to cover, you've got some basic understanding of astrology, actually. So that might be kind of fun,
Yeah. I do have, if you're into moon and moon magic, the Moonology, or if you're just starting out, this by Yasmin Boland, and she just came out with these cards, and I will show them to you. I will actually take them out and show them to you. And it's just all about the different things you can do. So how Krista was kind of saying, how she tracked how she was on the day-to-day on the moon. Well, you can also do rituals and things day-to-day depending on the moon. And like this is the back of them. And I'm going to show you some of the fronts.
I love the back.
Yeah, the back is so cool. And things like full moon in Aquarius. Show the world the real you. I'm just going to read like 3 of them so you get the idea. And this is the new moon in Leo. Confidence is your key to success. And new moon in Virgo, a time to give rather than take. So this type of...
That's nice.
They're very well made. And they go with... She does have, the types of spells and the ways to work magic based on the cycles of the moon. So I do recommend that. I know a couple people that really enjoy the book very much. And she just came out with these cards, I think about 6 weeks ago or something like that. So it's a really nice kind of little like duo, and it's not that expensive. For someone who's even just interested. If you're a witch and you have a friend who's always asking you questions about the moon and moon ritual and new moon and full moon, this is a great way to get them started. And it's so much fun, I know, to have cards that you can kind of play with on a day-to-day basis. They're a great oracle to pick up. So yeah,
That's great. Yeah, and the moon is a huge, important part of witchcraft, as many of you know. It's a lunar tradition, actually. And so I think this would be perfect for someone. And also, it looks like you'd really learn a lot.
Yeah, actually, that's what's kind of cool. Is you're actually learning astrology by playing a fun astrology game with the cards and it's just very cool. Definitely check it out. There's another book I wanted to mention, and it is High Magic by Damien Eccles. And Damien Eccles, some of you may know him as one of the West Memphis Three. And, he was accused of a crime he didn't commit and went to death row for 18 years. And I'm just going to, it's only a few sentences, and I just want to read very, very quickly. Magic saved my life. Magic was the only thing in prison that gave my life purpose and kept me sane. Magic was the only thing I had to protect myself with. And that's what this book is about. The practices that kept me alive for nearly 2 decades on death row. And it's just, talk about buying something and supporting someone. If you haven't watched the West Memphis 3 documentaries, they're on HBO. You can probably stream them. Don't do it on Christmas because it'll depress you. Actually, it's very inspiring. But he just there's spells in here. Just as basic. It's not a bio of his life or his life in prison. It's actual practices and what he did on a daily basis to survive death row and how he got himself out of death row. Him and his wife, who he met in prison, used magic to manifest a miracle, the impossible, which was him being freed from death row.
It's like a grimoire.
Yeah, it's really, really fantastic. So Eccles is Echols, Damien, High Magic, The Guide to the Spiritual Practices That Saved My Life on Death Row. Awesome person, awesome people, and you can get this on Amazon. It's like $20. So it's just a very different type of magic book because there are so many of the typical kind of magic books and we see them all the time when we go into these types of bookstores and we go to the magic session. And this is just something that it's very profound. And he tells you he's telling you about the magic he used, but it's also very practical, and on how he used it. It's not your typical magic book. So that's why, and it's very well written. He's an excellent writer, extremely intelligent. So, Damien Eccles, if you're watching, you inspire me every day. Thank you. You and your wife, Lori.
My book I want to give a shout out to is Animal Speak by Ted Andrews. It still is the best all around book for the animal lovers. The reason is that, first of all, he not only uses the mythology, but he also talks about the real animals, and he does timing in an interesting way, which no one else really does. He's got 2 books. I like the first one definitely the best, and then because the second one are more rare animals and not North American, so because I'm in North America. But I still go back and read, the animals, and I say, I forgot about this with the Black Panther and this meaning, and also he has things about directions. So I haven't really memorized the teachings of directions, but I tried it once. So if you see a bird flying in southeast or northwest, you're supposed to have, there's questions that go with it. So I remember checking it out at one time, and it really did resonate with me. Oh yeah, that is what's going on with me actually. So he has ways of working with it. He also has a lot about bird magic, which is very different, I think, from living with birds and other animals. It's got its own specialty. I like to read I collect a lot of the books for the animals, but it's still the best. He's still the best, well-rounded of sort of encyclopedia type. These are the things that
go wrong with the text.
You can't.
It's making me want to go buy it because I've been meaning to buy it, and it's just this is a great time of year to go get.
You can get it on Kindle too now, which I did, so that you can highlight things really easily.
And that's actually a really good point because I love look at how beautiful this book is. It's actually a beautiful book, and to be able to open a book, and I still love to hold books, but usually it's cheap to download a book on Kindle. So for $9.99, you can actually I don't think anybody would be mad at you if you gave them a Kindle gift certificate or said, hey, I want to let's get your computer out or your iPad out. Let's
Your
get
phone,
this for
yeah,
you.
you can use
Let's just
Kindle
do it
on
on your
phone.
phone for
Yeah.
$9.99. You can just do it. So
Yeah,
if
absolutely.
you enjoyed this, we had so much fun.
We did. Thank you again for watching another episode. We are going to have Mary Magdalene topic with Jim McGrath next week. We're so excited about that.
Don't forget to thumbs up. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to become a part of our fam. We love to have you here with us, and please comment.
Yes.
Have a
please
great
do.
night.
Good night, everyone.